Our next unit of study is the Fertile Crescent in Mesopotamia. The Fertile Crescent is found in the region of the world known as the Middle East. The Fertile Crescent is an area that is shaped like a crescent. It contains very rich and fertile farmland, and this region extends from the Mediterranean Sea to the Persian Gulf. Within the Fertile Crescent, there are two very important rivers, the Tigris River and the Euphrates River. These rivers are very important because they allowed for nomadic people to build cities and eventually develop civilizations. Nomads are people who do not have a permanent home. They move from place to place following resources. Therefore, they move from place to place either following a herd of animals or they always were constantly on the move looking for resources like water. Mesopotamia. The Fertile Crescent's rich farmland allowed for the region to develop called Mesopotamia. In Mesopotamia developed the world's first civilizations. Mesopotamia developed between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. Mesopotamia actually is a Greek word that means between the rivers. It is very important that you realize and remember that Mesopotamia and the Fertile Crescent are not the same thing. Mesopotamia is a part of the Fertile Crescent. For instance, North Carolina is a part of the southern region of the United States. The Tigris and Euphrates River. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers were very important and influential to the development of civilizations in Mesopotamia. The land along the rivers had very rich soil that was very good for farming. Every year, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers would flood. This flooding deposits silt. Silt is finely ground fertile soil that is good for growing crops. The flooding deposits silt across the Mesopotamia region. Eventually, people in Mesopotamia began to control the river's flooding by building dams. People would also dig canals to control the flow of water into their fields. This watering of crops using canals is called irrigation. By creating this irrigation system, farmers could grow large amounts of food. This created a surplus of food, meaning people in Mesopotamia had more than enough food that they needed. That surplus of food meant that everyone did not need to farm. Therefore, people could then focus on creating different goods, such as cloth, tools, or weapons. These goods then could be traded, which allowed for civilizations to develop in Mesopotamia. Sumer. Sumer is the world's first civilization. By 3000 BC, villages grew into cities in Sumer, which is a region in southern Mesopotamia. The people of Sumer were called Sumerians. The Sumerians built many cities. Most of their cities looked like this diagram. So you eventually had a central city, and then around that city was farmland. This layout led to the formation of what we called city-states. City-states are political units made up of a central city and all of the countryside around it. Each of the city-states had their own government. Over time, many city-states developed in Sumer. Sumerian city-states did occasionally fight one another. However, in times of peace, they were able to trade with one another. The Sumerian society. Religion played a huge role in the daily lives of Sumerians. The Sumerians were polytheistic. This means that they believed in many gods. For instance, they had a sun god, they would have a moon god, they would have a goddess of war. Sumerians believed that these gods were responsible for the good things in life, like a good harvest or wealth, and they also believed that they were responsible for the bad things in life, like drought, illness, or disease, floods. The main goal of the Sumerians was to please their gods. Each city-state had a temple for their gods called a ziggurat. Sumerians believed that the ziggurats would bring them closer to their gods. The people in Sumer were divided by rank or class. This system of social division is called a social hierarchy. The Sumerian social hierarchy looked like this. So for instance, I drew it in a pyramid. As you go up the pyramid, people increased in power and wealth in the Sumerian society. So at the top you had the kings. The next step you had the priests, warriors, and government workers. In the middle you had the craftspeople, merchants, and traders. Below them were the farmers and laborers, and at the very bottom of the Sumerian society were the slaves. Just to let you know, this middle section, craftspeople, merchants, traders, farmers, and laborers, they had the most number of people in the Sumerian society. That was the largest population. Sumerian achievements. Sumerians created a new way of writing called cuneiform. Cuneiform was written by using a wedge-shaped tool on damp clay. Sumerians were also the first to build wheeled vehicles such as carts. They also invented a plow, which helped increase agricultural production. They created a math system based on the number 60. The Sumerians were the first to divide a circle into 360 degrees and to separate a year into 12 months. Sumerians were also the first to create sailboats and make bronze out of copper and tin.